The sting of the Buccaneers' loss Monday night has not eased up as they let one slip away. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this WTSP Wednesday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at JYarcho_Bucs. He is Evan Klosky at eKlosky WTSP. We are your credentialed members of the media covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm the editor-in-chief over at the 813.tv. Evan is, of course, on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. And the show is here with you every Monday through Friday along with the everydayers. For that, I want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Looking ahead to the matchup with the 49ers this weekend, and of course, Evan shines up that crystal ball all nice and pretty and really gets a read as to what is going to happen. But we're going to start off with this, Evan. We are 24 hours removed from the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, it was a lot closer than I expected. It was a lot closer than I think a lot of people expected. But what was your biggest takeaway from the performance Monday night in a 30-24 loss in overtime?
My biggest takeaway is actually I thought we got the best version of the Buccaneers we've seen in a long time. I agree with Todd Bowles, who came out on Tuesday saying, look, we got beat. We didn't beat ourselves. And for the most part, that was true. I think a couple of offensive drives were ruined due to penalties, maybe some unfortunate, maybe some missed. But for the most part, I thought those terrible penalties to screw them over, offensively speaking, were not as prevalent. I felt like the defense had one of its better games. I understand the second half, they kind of got bullied and gassed, and no doubt about it. But their rushing defense still only gave up 3.5 yards per carry. The only problem is they could not get a negative or a no gain in there often enough. And if they got the no gain, then it was like a 5-yarder given up right away. So they just couldn't get them in third and long situations enough in the second half, which is what they were doing in the first half, which is why it was a 10-7 game. And they got a huge break on that first drive because Xavier Ward, they stepped out of bounds and lost track of where he was on the field. But yeah, my biggest takeaways is, close, but not good enough. And that was another opportunity right there at their fingertips where they had a chance to really do something special and didn't get it done. But this is, again, this is a good football team, good bones to it, good foundation. They're hurt, and it's becoming very clear that some of these deficiencies they cannot really overcome. The usage of wide receivers was obvious. Not many, outside of maybe Shep at the end, caught catches. I think, Ryan Miller, Sterling Shepard, and Cade Otton with your running backs. I think, was that pretty much it? Am I missing anybody?
Raheem Jarrett had one really nice catch, but
yes.
that was it. I think that was his only target.
Yeah, I mean, as far as wide receivers who had more than one catch, Sterling Shepard had 4, Trey Palmer had 2. That's it. You had Rakim Jarrett with 1, you had Ryan Miller with 1, and then you had your running backs. So, look, they're doing their best. Liam Cohen is scheming away. I'm really impressed with him that he's finding ways to generate points. The total yardage is not impressive, but when they do get going, they're finishing, which is, especially in the red zone. Their red zone offense has been great recently. And then defensively speaking, you got Josh Hayes out there being picked apart. They don't have anyone to fulfill that depth role there at cornerback. And then you also are getting annihilated by the tight end, something that's been a staple of the Todd Bowles defense for a while, but it's just more prevalent now that KJ Britt is in there, and they tinkered. I mean, JJ Russell saw the field quite a bit. So, people want accountability from Todd Bowles. There's the accountability. Jake Camarda's gone. They're shuffling linebackers. Funderburk was benched in the first half of the Falcons game for just not being good enough. So he's trying. The problem is he's trying to find the right personnel, and he's not being creative enough with the scheme. And that's probably the biggest thing that worries me with Todd, is that he's a little bit too stubborn in the scheme, whereas the offense has learned to be a bit more creative. I think in some ways I haven't necessarily seen all of that with the defense. And, the one healthy part of the defense is the defensive line. And entering the season, we said that's probably the biggest weakness. So you're trying to depend on a bunch of guys who you already knew entering the year weren't the strong suit. But, shout out to Vita. Vita Vea was a monster, I thought. Todd Bowles said it was arguably his best game ever since he's been here in Tampa Bay. So that just goes to show you what Todd thought of it. But yeah, just tough loss, and we can get into the whole end of game scenario stuff now.
Yeah, and that's, of course, what I wanted to go with, because I opened my live stream talking about how that should have been a 2-point conversion for the Bucs at the end. I tweeted it out. When the Bucs had the ball before that drive started, if the Bucs can come away with a touchdown, they need to go for 2, given the situation. And I think, a lot of people in hindsight want to call for the 2-point conversion, and I'm not one of those people that think that you should always go for 2. To me, it's situational. You're on the road against an undefeated team without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, in the rain, and you just made mincemeat out of that defense, ride that momentum, and go for the win there. And I even said on the show, if the Bucs went for 2 and didn't get it, I'm a lot less irritated by the loss than the way that they lost. So what are your thoughts on Bowles opting for the extra point, and then his explanation as to why he didn't, which to me made it that much worse?
So first, let me just say I'm on the side of doing the 2-point conversion. Absolutely, all day, every day.
I knew I liked you.
I'll play the devil's advocate here soon to kind of go into a different mindset. But the story I like to go back to with 2-point conversions, when I was a young reporter in Spokane, Washington, I covered Mike Leach for Washington State. Washington State went into Oregon. Oregon was ranked. Wazoo rarely ever won at Oregon. And they tied the game, or they scored a touchdown late. And instead of going for 2, they went for the extra point and went into OT. And all of us were kind of like, what are you doing? Like, you have them on the ropes. You never win in Oregon. You got it right there. Do it. And he didn't. And what ended up happening was Washington State won the game. They actually did win in overtime. So after the game, we go, Mike, you had, why? It worked out, but why didn't you go for 2? And his explanation was, I did not feel like they could stop me in a list of plays. Like, I felt like our offense was going to beat them if you give me a bunch of plays to do it. But if you give that defense 1 play, I think they can stop me. So in the sense is, like, his part is, I'm thinking, what I'm watching, what I'm seeing, we're better than them, and I want more time on the clock to prove that, and keep shoving it down their throats. In that game against the Chiefs, I don't see how you can say we're better than this team. And I'm sure that's not the mentality that they have, right? Bowles should, obviously he's thinking in his head, yeah, I believe in my guys. But you can't be that, I don't even think arrogance the right word. Maybe not naive. Like, you're not a better team than the Chiefs. And I said it off the top. I thought that was actually a really good game from the Buccaneers. And I agreed with him saying that they got beat. They didn't beat themselves. you threw your best punch and it wasn't good enough. Those are the situations where you have to go for two. And you had your defense on the field for 15 plus minutes, 30 plays, nearly 150 yards. They were gassed. And to not read that room is just bad. And it's a defensive coach wanting to maybe put things into his own hands instead of realizing that it's probably best to put it into Baker and Liam Cohen. That right now we are not a defensive team, we are an offensive team. And he's got to get out of his defensive brain and come to the realization the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are built on offense. What's keeping them in games? Offense, not defense. And that's even saying that I thought the defense played pretty well. So in that scenario, elongating the game where you're already down human beings as is, and you're gassed defensively, that's just a problem. So to me, you have to go for two there.
Yeah, I agree. And a big part of it was the defense, to your point, they played really well, especially in the first half. But those last couple of drives in the second half, they had been on the field for so long. I think Kansas City beat out Tampa in time of possession by almost a full quarter. It might have been a full quarter. Yeah, you have to play situational football there, and I thought it was a huge mistake not to. But I will say this Bucs team has absolutely no quit in them. So can they get over the hump against San Francisco? That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, Locked On Bucs listeners, remember our great partner, Ultimate Pro Football GM? Well, they're back, and they have added an amazing new game mode I need to tell you about. The game that has you step into the shoes of a football franchise GM and lead it to glory now has a new head coach career mode. So on top of getting to build your dynasty by drafting players, signing free agents, and hiring coaching staff, now you also get to call offensive plays during the game as well. Additionally, you'll dig the new tools that you can work with, such as individual training camps and upgraded negotiation system. So this fun and realistic game just got a lot better. If you've already have it installed, be sure to do an update so you can try out the new modes. If you don't have it yet, download it right now. It's a must for all football fans. I love it, and I know you will too. Ultimate Pro Football GM is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want. And here's the special offer for Locked On fans. Use the promo code Locked On NFL, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your franchise. Make sure to get it, as this perk will jumpstart your play and give you the advantage that you're going to want in creating a dynasty. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the app stores. Ultimate Pro Football GM. Start your dynasty today. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, on a PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every day. Everydayers, make sure you are coming back tomorrow. I will be joined by Brian Peacock of Locked On 49ers for a crossover Thursday. Cannot wait. Always love talking to Brian. In the meantime, the new Locked On NFL is here, and it is 2 shows every day. You got the Madman Tyler Rowland kicking off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then you can swing by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. You got Locked On local experts. You get unprecedented NFL insight, and it's twice a day. So make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Evan, something that I talked about last week, and I think it's just as true today as it was then, is that this Bucs team has not given up. They have not quit. Todd Bowles has not lost the locker room. These guys are all still trying to overcome some unbelievably brutal injuries to a lot of key players. And even without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, even without, Jamel Dean to a certain extent, he was struggling, but that's neither here nor there. With the holes on the defense and everything, they're still in these games. They're still in games against the Chiefs on the road. They're still in games against the Falcons. How do they get over the hump this week and finish a game to get a big win over the Niners to go into the bye at 5-5?
The one thing when you're down men right now, like they are, you have to provide an X factor. And for the first time in a very long time, the Buccaneers won the turnover battle. And typically when they win the turnover battle, they win games. Last year, they had a very high, they were very much in the green when it came to turnover differential. Just hasn't been the case, but the way that Baker played against the Chiefs is the way that he's got to do it. So you gotta find ways to force turnovers. You gotta find, because the defense ain't gonna save you. So the only way that they can save you is to shorten the field for the offense and to really create those game-winning plays. So I can't, would like to see more interceptions. Typically a Todd Bowles group, especially one with the Buccaneers, seems to rattle off more fumbles than interceptions. But I think that's what you have to do. And the problem is you can't really go into the game scheming up turnovers. You hope that you can create them and have those opportunities. But it's, to me, the only way, considering what Kyle Shanahan's strengths are and how the Niners do business. So it's kind of like a cop-out answer to just get turnovers. But to me, that's how you win. This is a brutal spot. There's no way around it. You're coming off a Monday night football game against the two-time defending champions. You took them to overtime. You lost in brutal fashion. Then you have to play the San Francisco 49ers, who are a desperate team as well because they haven't started the season out too hot. They're coming off a bye week, and they're getting, likely, Christian McCaffrey back. This could not be a worse spot for the Buccaneers. And when we saw this on the schedule, we knew it was going to be a disgusting spot. So how do you overcome it? Turnovers.
Yeah, and of course, you and I were talking a little bit before the show started, and that's going to be a lot easier said than done, right? Because this Bucs team is running a lot of zone defense, and the 49ers are probably going to feast on that. And you were mentioning how tight ends have been a problem for Todd Bowles kind of the whole time, but now it's exacerbated this season. So you have George Kittle on that side. You still have Deebo Samuel. If they have Christian McCaffrey back, I'm not as confident as you are that he's going to play this week. But even if he is back and only has 50% of his normal workload, you have that dual threat there. You have, running backs that can catch and run. And, that it's going to be one of those where once again, the offense is going to have to carry. And, where does the defense get answers outside of a turnover?
It's a great question because George Kittle's going to eat. We all know it, and the problem is, and I understand Todd's dilemma, which is why he needs to be more creative, I think. And that's the real tough point is it seems like he doesn't have many answers, right? Go back to the Chiefs game. I mean, I love how simplistic Andy Reid kept it. Target Josh Hayes, target the tight end, and run the ball against a defense that probably is not as good as it once was in rushing defense. And honestly, they lucked out that they did just enough running the ball to get that 1 or 2 extra yards on every one of those drives. But if you go a dime package and you remove KJ Britt off the field, now you got Jordan Whitehead or someone small in there, which means there's going to be a mismatch. You saw Jordan Whitehead go one-on-one with Kelsey in that contest. Guy like Kittle, guy like Kelsey, they're going to win that 10 times out of 10. So you are hand wrapping a completion to the Niners that way. And then if you go with more of your normal base defense, you have Britt or JJ Russell out there doing their thing, and typically they're gonna give up their catches too. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. If we overplay the pass, we're probably gonna get burned. And by the way, if you go dime more, you're just gonna get burned by the run, and they're just gonna mash you because big guys and small guys is not a good combo. So you have to play dime only in passing obvious situations, and you just. I don't know. I think they did better at guarding the middle of the field, but still not good enough. It's still very obvious that for the most part, if you target the middle of the field, it's going to be open enough. Maybe not all plays. Maybe there was some in that game. I think about the end of that first drive, the first third down, or the last third down that the Chiefs had before they kicked the field goal. There was a really good coverage sack there because the Bucs ate up the middle of the field, which the Chiefs I don't think were expecting. But for the most part, the Chiefs continually found the middle of the field where they had to in those zones, and it was still open for business. So that's been a hole in the Todd Bowles defense forever. And they have worse personnel now than what they've had in the past with Todd Bowles. So this would be a totally. They're a couple men short, And as I said, entering the season, we had this discussion. I felt like this was a team that was built for 2025, and I felt like they were a playoff team still for 2024. My opinions have not changed. I think in the offseason, you fix the linebacker position, you add depth at cornerback, you try to find someone on the line, and I think the Bucs are pretty darn close to being top of the heat.
Yeah, they're to forecast ahead about 6 months. The only positions that I'm talking about when it comes to ramping up for the draft, I'm talking about corners, I'm talking about linebackers, and I'm talking about edge rushers. That's it. That's all I'm talking about. Those are the only three positions. If they draft anything else, I will be upset.
At least in the early rounds, if you want to throw some late round darts on a wide receiver and inside,
another running back, in case Rashad, he'll be entering a contract year in case they want to prepare for life without him. But yeah, pretty much anything in the first 5 rounds that's not a corner, a linebacker, or an edge rusher. It's mostly defense. Like you might need to draft 2 cornerbacks. Yeah.
So that's 100%. And they're a team that likes to do development stuff, right? Like I still believe in Tyreek Thunderberg. It's just too soon. I believed in Zion McCollum when he was a rookie, but man, did he not look good early in his career. It was real bad. So, his issues were more stopping the run, but yeah, NFL's hard. So they're still a bit raw in some degrees, and they haven't had injury luck. And that's just the way last year they had a lot of injury luck. This year, not so much.
Yeah, Super Bowl year, they had the best injury luck in the NFL. So that's just kind of, that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. All right, it is crystal ball time. That is coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Bucs are 5.5-point home underdogs against the San Francisco 49ers with an over-under of 50.5. If you want to get in on the action early, the Ravens are 6.5-point home favorites over the Cincinnati Bengals with an over-under of 52.5. The Chiefs remain the Super Bowl favorites at plus 370, followed by the Lions at plus 500, Ravens at plus 750, and the Bills at plus 850. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Whether you're dodging tackles on the field or cheering from your couch, The Joint Chiropractic has your back, literally. As an official chiropractor of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're here to make sure you're always in the game, no matter your role. If you're feeling the pain after a long week or just looking to stay active, they offer personalized care to help you bounce back stronger. 90% of elite athletes, including NFL pros, rely on chiropractic care to stay at the top of their game and perform their best. At The Joint, you don't need an appointment. Just walk in and get the care you need same day. No scheduling hassles. Just walk in when it's convenient for you. Here's the real kicker. As a Bucs fan, you can get your first visit for just $19. Head over to Buccaneers.com, check out the contest and promotion section under the fans tab, and download the offer. A great deal for great fans. Head to thejoint.com to find your nearest Tampa area location. Wrapping things up here on a WTSP Wednesday episode of Locked On Bucs, and it is that crystal ball time. Again, I hate Monday night games. I really, really do. We have like that extra show in between the games, and then, the game just happened, and you and I are already having to immediately shift focus before there's really been enough time to fully break down everything that happened. But it is what it is, right? It's, in the words of Bill Belichick, we're on to San Francisco. So, you got the Bucs, you got the Niners. The Niners are having to come to Tampa. It's going to be an early game. Hopefully the clock messes with them a little bit. Brock Purdy and Bosa maybe sleep through their alarms and they miss the game and they have to be healthy scratches because no one can find them. But, let's start things off as we always do, Evan, with your predictive player of the game.
My player of the game, I have a really tough time picking one because I think the running backs are going to be the main focus. So if
I've lumped them together on numerous occasions. So if you want to lump them together, by all means, it's my show, my rules. I say you're allowed to do it.
Yeah, so either Rashad or Bucky, I think both of them are going to be a huge focal point on Sunday. I think they're going to ride their running backs. I would like to see Sean Tucker more, but at least in this type of game, Rashad White's played the Niners twice. He has 5 receptions and 6 receptions. So we got 11 receptions in 2 games against the Niners. I expect him to be involved in the passing game, especially considering the Bucs don't really have the ability to separate a wide receiver too much, considering what they have. So I'm going with them.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Sean Tucker get more than 3 carries, though. Can we make that a thing?
Yeah, I guess it's difficult because, and he's a good pass. The problem is just his pass pro is not good enough, and that you worry about Baker in those scenarios if it's not a quick play. So you kind of tip your hand when Sean's in there because you're not running a long route, so it's going to be quick. It's either going to be a run or it's going to be a quick hitter. So I get it, but I still think he's probably the best purebred runner on the team. So you got to find a spot. I understand.
Yeah.
Watching Bucky, he's so impressive. I think he's getting a little too jukey. I think he's trying to find the explosive too much, and he's doing a little bit too much hopping around. Now, again, that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying that, typically you're having a lot of success doing it. The league's going to catch up to you, and they're just going to bury you in these spots. And then there were a couple of holes where I thought, man, Bucky, if you just hit it, if you just went, I think you had something there. But you turn something into a 6-yard run. But it's like, should this have been a 12-yard run? If you just hit the hole and went for it. So, again, it's not like he's bad. That's not what I'm getting at. It's just like I wonder if he's getting a little bit too saucy out there.
I like that. Too saucy. All
Too
right.
saucy.
What is your bold prediction for this one?
My bold prediction is there will be at least one run north of 50 yards. So we got like a
Now specify a run by the Buccaneers or just a run in this game?
No, but Buccaneers. The Buccaneers will have a run that goes for 50 or more yards.
I like it. And double down. Who's it going to be?
I'll go Bucky.
Extra sauce. Bucky with extra sauce.
Yeah. Look.
All right.
I'm someone that likes to throw all that. We're going ketchup. We're going mustards. We're going ranch. We're going mayo. All in. 50-yard run.
Yep. I love it. All right. The Buccaneers are, last I checked, I believe they are 6.5 point home.
I think it's 5.5. Yeah, I think it's 5.5. But
has it moved? All right. Who do you have in this one? What's the score prediction here?
I'm going 34-23 Niners. Shanahan's going to ruin this team in the zone. He is. I don't know how else to say it. And they don't have like the world's best threats right now outside of Debo. But they got Debo, they got Kittle. I think that'll probably be enough. And McCaffrey returning will be an added layer of crap. But Shanahan's going to outcoach Todd Bowles, and I'm pretty confident in that. And you gave him extra time. To be honest, he probably didn't even use the extra time on the Buccaneers, and probably spent it on the Seahawks and the Packers or whoever's coming up next for him. So I just have to go with them, and I think the Buccaneers have plenty ability to. They really need to copy and paste the game plan from the Chiefs. It just, maybe execute at a higher level, which is so tough. Like telling an offense, hey, you can't have negative plays, you can't do anything, you can't get sacked, it'll be difficult, but
you can't have face masks called against you when you're holding onto someone's shoulder.
Yeah, that's unfair. But yeah, just as I mentioned before, coming off of Monday Night Football, where you almost handed the Chiefs their first loss in an overtime game, to quickly turn around against one of the best coaches in the NFL, who's had a bye week, who's getting significant personnel back. Like, I'm not, and not to mention the Bucs are thinking in their head, we're at the end of this week, man, we got a week off. We're going to get healthier. It just, I don't know. I don't know how focused they're going to be. They need this win, but I don't know. It's a really tough spot. So 34-23 Buccaneers, and just have to win the turnover battle. I just like I said it last week with the Chiefs. I said there was no way that the Buccaneers would win that game without winning the turnover battle. They won the turnover battle, and they were that close. You got to win maybe the turnover battle by 2. Leave yourself some margin for error. But that's my prediction.
Yeah, and I think Antoine makes a play in this one. He's going to be chomping at the bit after missing, 2 opportunities to come away with the football.
Yeah, and I do want to quickly mention, because the second one would have been a ridiculous play if he caught that, the miscommunication with D-Hop. But he's got to be better on the first D-Hop bomb. Like he's lasered in on that ball, and he reroutes to take the pick. Just attack the ball, bro. Attack the ball, swat it away, forced him to kick a long field goal. That was, you got to know, KYP, know your personnel, know that's Josh Hayes, and know that's DeAndre Hopkins. You can't be out here assuming anything. Knock that ball down, get off the field, force him to get 3, call it a day. So, I love Antoine, but in times like this, he cannot be the one making mistakes. You are a leader. He knows it. He's getting paid like it. you don't have, if Josh Hayes messes up, I understand it. If KJ Britt messes up, I get it. I can't give him the same grace. He's better than that, and he knows it.
All right, Evan, let everybody know what's going on over at 10 Tampa Bay and 10tampabay.com.
Yeah, we're still turning out the Blitz every Sundays at 8:30. You can also watch us on YouTube, our 10 Tampa Bay YouTube page. You can watch us on the 10 Tampa Bay Plus app. We will get this preview show going for the Niners contest. And, right now we got the USF groundbreaking on that new stadium happening Friday. The Bolts are playing. Hopefully James can be happy with that result against the Blues. We don't know it yet, but shrug shoulders. But yeah, that's, and feel free to hit me up at eklosky WTSP on the X, and I'll respond to any question that doesn't come across extremely rude.
All right. Well, make sure you're checking out everything that Evan is doing over on 10 Tampa Bay and at 10tampabay.com. You can check out my work over at the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarcho_Bucs, at eklosky WTSP. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs or click the link in the show notes to become an insider today. And of course, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube with those notifications turned on, or on your favorite podcast platform. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining us right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.